Hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for checking out the video. Today, we have the Squier Classic Vibe BassVI. Hey, that's a guitar. Well, bass guitar, right? Anyways, but this is literally a bass guitar. First off, this is the Classic Vibe. This is Squier. We'll start with that first. Squier made one called the Vintage Modified previously, which was very similar. They've made some upgrades. But they haven't quite gone far enough, and I'll get to that in a second. But what is the BassVI? So the BassVI is 6 strings, obviously, and it is tuned just like a guitar. E, A, D, G, B, E. So you can play chords and the like on it. It was first came out, I think, in 1961. Dan Electro had originally made the 6-string bass. And was very popular in like country music to play alongside a string bass. So they called it the tic-toc bass, where the tic-tac, excuse me, tic-tac bass. The upright bassist would play the bass line, and then it would be doubled by somebody playing with a pick on a piano bass to give a little bit more bite and attack. Because back in the 50s, the stereo system sound reproduction wasn't what it is today. So there you go. But Fender came out with this in 1961 called the BassVI. It was a little bit different. So it had 3 single coil pickups. It was obviously built on the offset waist body style, which is similar to the Jaguar and Jazzmaster. But we have these switches here, and what these switches are on-off switches. And the original 61 only had 3, and it was turn each pickup on and off. And after starting in 62, they had this 4th switch, which is a Strangle Switch. And what does this do is it's a high pass filter, basically. What it does is it cuts off the low end, so you can play it a little bit more like a guitar, and it'll cut out the low bassiness, because as many people may or may not know, the more chords, when you play chords in the bass frequencies, it tends to get muddy because of the overtones and all that. And so by using a Strangle Switch, it lets the chord sounds come out a little bit more. And plus it gives its own unique sound. But these are 3, so the Squier setup is very faithful to it. It has master volume, master tone, on-off pickups, on-off switches for each pickup, and the Strangle Switch. 3 single coil Alnico pickups. It has this style, the Jazzmaster style tremolo, which has its adherence. It has its pros and cons. It's kind of tricky. Doesn't always stay in tune very well when you bring it back. And it has I forget what they call this bridge, but the bridge floats a whole lot. Now, it has vintage style tuners, just like a guitar. Relatively lightweight, body's made out of poplar. This was very popular in some areas. Jack Bruce actually played one of these in the early days of Cream. He had a 1961 with just the 3 switches. And it was painted by the Fool as well, so it was psychedelic colors. He gave up on it after a while. He searched quite a few. He went through BassVI and Dano Longhorns until he finally settled on the EB3 for the majority of his Cream days, and then moved on others. You can do a whole video on Jack Bruce's basses until he settled on the Warwick, but I digress. And very popular with the Beatles. For whatever reason, Fender never did anything with the Beatles until the end. There in 1968, they set up a deal, and one of the instruments that Fender gave the Beatles was a BassVI. When Paul was playing piano or guitar, John or George would play bass, and they would play bass on this. If you watch the Get Back documentary, you can see it. In recorded versions, this is definitely played in back in the USSR. I believe the bass line is played on this, and you can see where they mess around with it a bit. You can see George playing the bass line to Maxwell's Silver Hammer in particular. But yeah, pretty cool. And more recently, the dub producer Bill Laswell plays one of these regularly. The original run was discontinued in the 70s, I think. It ran for about 15 years or so. Fender's reissued it a couple times. Japanese models Very, very expensive. They've made other versions in their pawn shop series. Again, they get pricey. This one goes for about 500 bucks. Not a bad deal. Oh, the scale, by the way, is 30.5 inches. So it's typical short scale. Really, it's a good bass for someone who plays guitar mostly to pick up, because I mean, you can basically, if you think better on guitar and for whatever reason the 2 less strings on a 4-string bass screw you up, you can just do everything on this, and it's pretty versatile instrument. But the big downfall is that as built and as shipped, the E string is almost impossible to intonate. Now, a couple reasons for that. One, it's an 84 on the D E string. Very, very light gauge. Probably because, you know, it lends itself more to guitar type playing. So looser action and the like. The other issue, why you can't intonate, comes down to the bridge. The bridge is not really designed to properly intonate. It's not big enough. There's not enough travel for the saddles. So I have the saddle on the E string cranked all the way back. And so what happens is if you tune the E string to pitch, it very quickly starts going out of tune as you go up the neck. And we'll let's show you. Okay, so here is your open E string. We have all the pickups engaged, why not? You got your E in tune. Now, depending on how good your ear is, you may or may not notice, but each note as you go up the neck becomes sharper and sharper. So those are octave Bs, right? Definitely you can hear that they're out. Those are octave Es on the higher strings, and you can tell they're much closer in tune, aren't they? So yeah, that's kind of a problem. So what can you do? Well, you can replace the bridge. There's a company called Stay Trem that made, I think, a replacement. I haven't found it anymore. They may have stopped shipping to the United States. It's an English company. I'm going to try to find it, but that'd be a surefire way to fix the issue, because the Stay Trem bridge is longer, so there's more room to travel on the strings for intonation, so you can actually intonate the string. The other option is to go with thicker strings. Now, Fender has come out with a bass 6 set. Typically, the bass 6 sets you'll find are typically a 95 on the E string. I know the Dario makes one like that, but Fender recently came out with a set that goes down to 100. I got a set of those. Those are easy to find. So what I'm going to do is I am going to change the strings on this bass, and we're going to see what it sounds like. So yeah, so we'll change the strings, and then we'll come back and we'll see if we can intonate the E string any better with a thicker E string. So wish us luck. Okay, we're back. So I sat down and I swapped out the E and I swapped out the A, and let's see now what the E sounds like. Wow, look at that, intonated. All pickups on. Now, I got to the D, and I originally had swapped the D, but then realized that I was having the opposite problem, that wasn't enough play toward the nut to properly intonate the D when I put the new D on. So I put the old D back on, and we have D, the D, G, B, and E, the high strings, are from the original set. So it looks like it's kind of a hybrid solution if you want to switch the strings. So the best bet would be to replace the bridge. So I'm going to keep my eye out and see if I can find the bridge, because that seems to be the way to get it to work all the way. I didn't bother even trying the G, B, and the E strings because of the issue with the D intonating. May not have been a problem, but I wasn't going to deal. But most importantly, the E string is in, because we're bass players. That's most important. And you notice I'm playing fingerstyle. I'm going to learn finger picking, because if I can finger pick, this would be like the most... the most awesome bass when you think about it. Then I got to work on that technique. But you can play it with a pick or with your fingers. So what's real quick? So single coil pickups, so you're going to get that hum. So as we said, we have on-off switches for each pickup, and the choke switch, which cuts out the low end. So let us do here. There's your neck pickup. Put the choke on. Really sucks out the low end. So, bass. No bass. Middle pickup. I like the sound of the middle pickup. You get a lot of different tones. The neck pickup didn't sound quite neck enough to me, if that makes sense, by itself. But this middle pickup really. Now, a little tricky if you're not used to it, getting used to that thin spacing. That's not going to be a way for anybody, for some people to get used to. But yeah, there you go. But there's your middle pickup. And the bass kill on. I gotta practice, but watch it all going in here. Alright, and here is the bridge pickup. And with the bass kill. Bit of a twang there, huh? Nice and twangy there, huh? And you want to play with your buds and get a surf sound going? There you go. That's all the pickups on with the bass cut disengaged. That's the bass cut on. So if you notice, it really seemed to get the most bass response from the middle pickup, but okay. So, really a fun instrument. So once you get over the issue, a little bit on the neck. Got to pull that back a little bit. But once you get over the issue with the intonation on the E string, wow, it sounds really good. You can do some really fun stuff with this instrument. You know, you could double guitar parts, but an octave lower. You can solo accompany yourself, really. You can use a looper. You can play your bass end. You can then play your high part. Really, you can use this to really fill out the sound of a trio. A guitar trio, just you know, you thump along the bottom, you can go up in the chords, you can, very versatile, fun stuff you can do with this instrument. So you know, kind of worth checking out. A lot of different options. Speaking of options, something you can do, you can take a capo, and let's throw it up on here, and you essentially got a baritone guitar here tuned to A now. And you can also, you know, capo, put the capo wherever the heck you want. Now we're in G. And now we're a guitar. Pretty cool. Just get a, this is a 12-string capo. That's probably what you want to get for that. Oh, and probably the pièce de résistance. You got your wang bar, your tremolo, your wang, your whatever you want to call it, and now it kind of. I'm going to play some real atonal stuff here. But The only problem I have with it was it does seem to really, really whack it out of tune. Let me get this here. Oh yeah. So I believe you can get tremolos to replace it, and it knocked it down almost a half step. So the bar really messes with the tuning, so I mean, if you want to use the tremolo, you may want to just use it for a special effect at the end. You know, whack it, and there you go. But yeah, so a little bit different today. Let me know what you think. The Squier Bass 6. So out of the box, really hard to play. You got to fix the intonation on the E string, so I went to a 100, and it is perfect. Easy to intonate. Got plenty of play on the saddle here now. It's right about where you expect it to be. I know other people use like 95s to varying degrees, but 100 might be the one to go to. So I just changed, again, I changed the E and the A, and the rest are the same, and I think it works pretty well. So let me know what you think, and be nice. I'm not a guitar player. I'm going to practice and learn more, because I'm going to try to work this instrument into playing some stuff. It's really good for creativeness, I guess, too, especially if you're not a guitar player and you want to fool around, and so you're coming from a bass side, and you can experience and fool around in different ways, and vice versa. This is a really cool tool for a guitar player who wants to come down to bass, because it's like it's home. It's just an octave down. So everything else is in the same spot. The tuning is the same, and all your guitar stuff works. It's pretty fun. So yeah, Squier Bass 6, $500. You can do a whole lot worse, I guess. But if you like what you see, subscribe. Check out my playlist of other reviews, and rock on.